Good morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. I'm loving my life. Who could complain on a day like today? Not me. I'm not going to do it. We're having a good time. It looks like we've got the Golden Age mascot in the chat again, our favorite mascot. We love mascots, Golden Age mascots, Ed Gallerin mascots, and our other favorite, of course, Thomas Massey mascots. He's a Massey mascot. Massey, unfortunately, a little busy fishing to get to all the Epstein files right now. But that's okay. He'll get right on it. He'll be there soon. He's going to save us. He's going to let us all know. There you go. Let me fix this. Why is this doing that? There we go. And there we go, everyone. Indeed. Good morning, people of the future. We're having a great time. Bitcoin is doing great. Trust the plan. I think we're at 69,000 US trash tokens. 69, you say? 69. And you're upset with 69? 69? There you go. My high school English teacher said that sarcasm is a useful tool if used on an occasional basis. My line cook, who now is the so he opened a restaurant. I worked in a like a pub or whatever when I was a teenager, and was a line cook for a little while. I did every job: a bartender, busboy, dishwasher, all the rest of it. But for a little while, when I was on the line cooking job, his line was sarcasm is the lowest form of wit. So that's not bad. I've kept that with me for many years. Although I like to be sarcastic indeed. I can confirm that Sunrise Tech is working on the east coast of the United States. We have the Sunrise Tech operational. Hola, hola, que ondas? I hope I read that right. Pioneering freedom. I'm not saying anyone here is using sarcasm, just in case it happened, but love everybody who is here indeed. Sarcasm is bad. It goes against the tenets of MAGA. Good morning, Clumate, climate deniers. Always remember, you are the problem. Have a great day indeed. Climate change advocates disappeared with data centers. We saw that indeed. We'll be talking about that a bit today. I had to write a sarcasm paper in the 10th grade expository writing class. Wrote about how croquet should be an Olympic sport. It really should be. I am one of the great croquet players of all time. I hit one of the most amazing croquet shots a couple of years ago. I still think about it. My friends still talk about it. One of those up the hill, back down, incredible angle. I was the croquet champion of my lake and area. I just caught my mom. She bulldozed a garage on, like an old garage on the property last week. Gave away my old bike that I paid for 1,000 Canadian trash tokens for in 1996. From that very job, working all summer, I managed to save 1,000 US trash. The bike wasn't in great shape, but I biked it across Canada many years ago. It was a great bike. I wish she wouldn't have. She didn't ask me first, but that's okay. But she also got rid of the croquet set, but it rotted a bit, I guess. Anyway, no big deal. We'll get another croquet set one day. Good morning, gang. Day 3 of Wind and Rain Tech fully operational. I saw the snowstorm they had in Sunshine Village yesterday, Lee J. You can hit the slopes today big time. Good morning from Election Day in LA, where less than 20% of the population will cast a ballot. That's the thing about cheating in municipal elections, is that it's much harder because of the low voter turnout. And you can actually cheat kind of without cheating in a municipal election. That's why the sophisticated systems for cheating for municipal elections aren't as good. That's why organized crime runs most cities pretty easily, because no one will get out and vote, and they can get people to vote pretty easily. Chatelet, Escape the Matrix 91, indeed. That's 50 years ago, says Lance. 2002, exactly. But we like croquet. I don't remember what I did last week. So much for saving democracy. Yeah, we're not saving the democracy. There you go. Chaladay is not quite Chatelet. I love BTC Plebinator, all the pumping of the golden age. You know, Trump, you're even sounding like Trump today. Trust the plan. That's exactly what the Department of War said yesterday. Are you dressing up as Donald Trump these days? Are you mascotting as Trump? I think so. You're the Trump in the comments. It's perfect. Trust no one, particularly politicians. The rug pulls will be legendary. I missed my plane to LA this morning. Was going to vote for the guy who wants clean, safe streets. Trust these nuts. USA is the power of man, but the irrationality and material psychosis of a woman. USA is a tranny. Israel is just a woman ruled by deception. I don't know if your analogy would hold up. But not bad. The U.S. military has tech that can bend space and time, but cannot clear a strait of hummus from a third world country. There you go. Stack sats and subvert the state. Trust in yourself. Put your faith in Claude, says young Tommy. Indeed. Oh, that was me. No, I've never been late. No one's not late. Time is racist and always be, and always has been. Exactly. What's late even mean? Lowest form of wit is Oscar Wilde. Yes. That's, I guess, where I got the quote from. But you are correct, CB Van. That is an Oscar Wilde quote. I did a production of The Importance of Being Earnest one time and became an Oscar Wilde fan that summer. The theater that I worked in that I've mentioned a few times was connected to that bar restaurant that I worked in for many years. So there you go. That was weird. Saw Nolan talking and he disappeared again. It wasn't really me talking, was it? It was a, I think it was a, I was testing. So stupid fucking computer today. It won't let me, like, normally I load up the whole show on the links that I share, screen share on a laptop, and then I just share between, you can share between devices and open up the full window with all of the tabs. Like, you can open up all the tabs if you go in your history. It won't give me the updated one. It was only giving me one from like an hour before. That was partly why we were late today. But that, I don't know why. So I was just seeing if I could share from the other computer correctly. So I'm branched in 2 different accounts today so that I could share from my laptop as well. So, and I've got really still not getting video feed. What? MMK007 says he's not getting the video feed. I don't know. We're going smooth over here. Yeah, I'm actually watching myself, so I can see, because I have that 2 account thing, I can see that it's working. So looks like it's on. I don't know. I'm still in the studio, but I see myself from 2 computers in the studio. So maybe you're having a stroke, MMK007. That's what Max Kaiser said to me when I tried to bring up chemtrails years ago. Reboot, MMK, exactly. Reboot. Okay, so that's what we got. Try and refresh the cache. Yeah, don't know what it is. Don't know indeed what it is. Okay, we have important screen sharing. That's why I had to make sure I had all the threads, because I've got updates, everyone, really important updates on thermostats. I will get to those in a second. We got to make sure we're getting to all 50 states. We'll see if we can get to all 50 states. They tried to print Wisconsin again today, but I already know I remembered the Wisconsin thermostat setting article that we read last week. So I'm not going to reiterate Wisconsin. It was in another newspaper, but we gotta move on from states and just remember, because we got to make sure we can help everyone from all states here. So we don't want to double it up. We only have so much time, right? So there you go, everyone. That is a major sunrise on our hands. We're doing great with the sun. And guess what? Bitcoin is running at 69,000 US trash tokens per Bitcoin. We're heading down to the 2021 highs, but the golden age is still here, everyone. Let's have a coffee and talk about our golden age. There we go, everyone. Now, let me see if I can share from this screen correctly. Well, I'm looking a little wobbly, aren't I? Are things really this delayed? This thing looks delayed. Okay, anyway, we'll see what goes on. We'll see what's happening. Let me see how the screen share actually works here. Huh? Let's see. Let's see. Nope. Hey, I got some problems today. Okay, this should be good. What is going on? There we go. Okay, so folks, we knew it was getting complicated yesterday, right? We dealt with Georgia, we dealt with California, we dealt with, where else did we go yesterday? I forget. We did Georgia, California. Well, now we know what's going. Oh, I think it was New Jersey. Maybe it was New Jersey. Yeah, it was New Jersey. So now we are getting to the bottom of what to do about North Carolina. This, I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say it also applies to South Carolina. And I know I was wondering this. A lot of Montrealers were here last week because of the hockey, right? You know, Montreal lost to Carolina. So lots of people were going to Carolina. And that's all I hear now. People who came back are like, oh my God, I got to North Carolina and it was so hot. They had a heat wave and I didn't know what to do. Well, I wish this article would have been written last week, because here we go. We're getting into it, everyone. Now we know what is up. June is here. And while the official start of summer is still a couple of weeks away, the temperatures are already feeling like summer. That's true. That's true. That's why it's great. Experts recommend setting thermostats to 78 degrees Fahrenheit during summer months. When away from home, a thermostat setting of 85 degrees is suggested to prevent heat damage to belongings. That's a new reason. We never knew about heat damage to our belongings, right? You know, we don't want heat damage. So if you leave a chocolate bar or something out, you're going to get heat damage. You're going to get heat damage. Tips to keep energy bills low this summer. While cooling your home to a comfortable temperature is important during the hottest months of the year, remember that, guys. It's important. Cooling your home is important during the hot months, less so during the cold months. Do you know why? Do you know why? Because it's cold outside, and that can affect how your house is inside. Nah, exactly. I know. Here's what we know. Install window coverings or have your windows treated to prevent heat gain. Guys, get your windows treated today because this is a huge problem. Use fans, ventilation strategies. You need a strategy, guys. You need a strategy to cool your home. Remember to turn off ceiling fans when you leave the room. So when you leave the room, you don't want to leave a fan running. You never know what'll happen then, right? Terrible. Use bathroom fans to remove heat and humidity from home during showers or baths. Okay, guys. So if you take a shower or a bath and it's really humid, you know, sometimes in a bathroom, you'll notice there are two switches, right? One is for the lights. If you've never noticed, that thing turns on and off the lights, right? That's pretty important. My kids have figured that out. So that's working great. There's often a separate little switch. It says on and off, just like a light switch. It often looks like a light switch. It's not a light switch, everybody. It actually turns on the bathroom fan. And that's not just to remove the smell of your poop or your farts. That's not just to clear out greenhouse gas emissions. No. It's actually there to remove some of the humidity in the room. If in case you're in a bathroom with no windows or something, right? It gets the humidity out. Okay, that's what it's for. So I know you've been sitting there your whole life. You know, when you're not confused about your thermostat, you're sitting in the bathroom saying, I wonder what this switch is for. No lights come on. I wonder what this light switch is for. It's for the fan. Okay, it's for the fan. Now you know. So you probably have this in your house. Most houses do. And it's probably one of yours, right? So there you go. You should consider a range of appliance and lighting options, such as lighting options that operate at cooler temperatures and washing full loads of dishes or clothes. Keep hot air from leaking into your home with methods such as This is part of the strategies, right? Caulk and weather stripping, right? You need some caulk, and that should help. So water heating accounts for about, yeah, so you got big problems, right? So, here's the average temperatures in, you need to know those. These are really important. And those are the average temperatures in Carolina. So that's what I got from Carolina. I got this too, guys. Here we can move over to California. Okay, this is not the same place as Carolina. They both start with CA, but they're separate states. They're at the other opposite ends of the country. Okay, so in California, it's a different group of experts that have to look at the temperatures there because it's not the same place, right? And so this is what we need to know, right? The best thermostat setting in California. Follow these guidelines to cool down your home and lower your utility bills. What's the best temperature for cooling my California home? Drum roll, please, everyone. 78 degrees. Okay, remember that. I know it's hard. We have to treat every state separately, right? But so far, 77, 78, 70. We'll see. We'll keep going. We got to keep going, right? When you keep your thermostat higher, both when you're at home and especially when you're away, okay, there you go. Ventilation, air conditioning system. So now you're knowing if 78 degrees isn't quite cool enough for you, you can make small adjustments, everyone, okay? You can do other things, right? There's other things you can do. This is the part where you set it when you're away. I wonder what the answer is here. It's the same. It's 80 to 85 degrees, thank God. Right? What are the ways to lower my home's temperature, right? It's what's the cheapest option to cool your home? This sounds very similar to what we heard about yesterday in Georgia, but it's not, right? Running a ceiling fan 5 hours a day during peak hours will add $4.53 to your monthly utility bill, okay? So that's the cheapest way. That's the same dog, but this dog is he was there yesterday, but it's a different state. So there you go. And this is what you got to do with your dog, right? It's the same idea. Dogs like it cooler. So now we know. So all of this information on ACs, right? I got a couple more here, a little more advice. 8 ways to keep your upstairs cool. The upstairs in your home is not the same as the downstairs. Hot air rises, right? So you need a separate strategy for different floors, different states, different floors in your house, different temperatures, different settings. It's really important, right? And you don't want to crank the AC. So meet the experts. Here, you get to actually meet them. It's not similar to the other articles. In the other articles, the experts were anonymous sources. Okay, they were just random experts. Here, we actually know who these people are now. It's Bob Swillick and David Watkins. He's an HVAC expert. And, we heard yesterday, what were the experts we were talking about yesterday? Thermostat experts, right? Thermostat experts. So everyone in the South knows when the summer heat arrives, right? So does the humidity. So there you go. So this is what you got to do. Schedule an HVAC maintenance check. Run ceiling fans properly, guys. Don't run your ceiling fan like, you don't want to do that. Right? You want your ceiling fan to just be going nice and smooth. That's what you want, right? Properly, right? Don't be wild and crazy with your ceiling fan. Don't walk up into your ceiling fan and unscrew it, right? Don't do that. It's got to be running properly. It's really important, right? There's a right way. Enhance your insulation, seal windows, gaps, and cracks. Close your curtains, everybody, okay? The experts are here to remind us. Curtains closed is really good. It keeps the sun out. It keeps the heat out. All right. Really important stuff. Replace your ductwork, change your light bulbs, install zone AC or a ductless system. So now you know, guys. Now you know. Really important. It's not, some people say the same things apply to the downstairs. No, you have curtains upstairs and downstairs. The sun hits at different angles. It's really, you need what you really need is someone who knows about geometry. If you don't have an expert in geometry to help you with the angles of the sun, I'll say go find someone who knows how to play pool, the game billiards, right? Because it's different angles. So if you don't have a geometry expert in your house, someone who has a hobby like playing billiards, they can help you with the angles of the top floor and the bottom floor. It's really important. And that all reminds me, right? We got all these things about thermostats. And that's why this article published today is so important, everyone. What you want to be is a thermostat leader, according to Forbes, right? You got to own the emotional climate. You got to be a leader around the thermostat, right? You know, some people in your family are going to say, oh, set the temperatures for the whole house. No, you just learned there's a difference between the top floor and the bottom floor. And if you're not consulting all these experts, you're not going to make it. Okay. You need to be a thermostat leader, right? You don't want to be a thermostat follower, right? I know we're trying to be leaders on the thermostat here. We're learning every day about the different states, the things you can do. If your thermostat isn't working correctly, you can do all of that stuff, right? You got to learn about all of that stuff. But we're preparing you here to be a thermostat leader, okay? As our golden age mascot is reminding us, right? The golden age is about to begin. Do you want to go into the golden age and not be a thermostat leader? Do you want to continue by the end of this summer to be a thermostat follower? I don't want to be a thermostat follower. I'm out here trying to be a thermostat leader. I'm trying to lead you to thermostat glory so that you can be the greatest thermostat operator in the history of the world. It's a career. It's a career. We see here leadership careers. Be a thermostat leader. Forbes. She's got a PhD, leadership advisor, right? You can lead in thermostats. You don't have to follow for the rest of your life. You're already like 10% of the way to being a thermostat expert. You're so close now. You're so close to being a thermostat expert. If you become a thermostat expert, you might even get quoted for giving advice about your state. About your state. You could be the person. They could be writing an article pretty soon. Those people that used to be anonymous, right? We saw at thermostat experts, that used to be an anonymous field. And we saw in the last article, they're even naming the thermostat experts now. So after all of these shows, by the end of the summer, it might be you. They might come around. If you're in a small state, like you're from Wyoming, there's not a lot of thermostat experts in Wyoming, right? You could be giving the expert advice on what people in Wyoming need to do with their thermostats. That's a career. People are worried about their jobs going forward. What's AI doing to jobs? Let me see AI be a thermostat expert. Let me see that happen. That's not going to happen, right? We need people at home to be thermostat leaders. And if you're a thermostat leader, you can be quoted. You can have a whole career, right? It sounds like too much responsibility. Yeah, Jack2K, you got to really go out on a limb here. I know it's a lot of work, but it's worth it. It's worth it, everyone. You can be a leader of thermostats. It's the most important thing, because if we don't have these leaders of thermostats, we're going to be screwed. Look at this. Look at what's happening with our leaderless thermostat culture. Look at this. Climate scientists say heat wave misinformation. Okay, misinformation, right? It's bad enough that we've got misinformation. It's fueling online harassment. Can you believe that the climate people they're not nags? You're out here saying climate nags. Oh, you're so weak and stupid. Oh, you dumb climate people don't understand anything. You're listening to Greta, right? No, they're getting harassed now, okay? They're out on a limb here. They're following the science, and now they're getting harassed, right? Misinformation is leading them to them getting harassed. People say, you've been talking about 30 years of the world flooding and we're going to die, and it never happened. Stop trying to scare us. No, that's harassment. Okay, that's harassment. Don't do it. They're trying to help you. Greta has your interests in mind. Come on, guys. And just as we have all that, right, this is what we know. How do heat waves affect pregnancies across Europe? How do they affect pregnancies across Europe? As heat waves become more frequent and intense, pregnant people, right? Pregnant people, right? Not pregnant women, pregnant people face significant consequences. But are they equally at risk? No, women have it much worse. Which countries are the most affected? Okay, let's find out who is the most affected by heat waves in Europe. It turns out it's Italy, right? I would have never believed. Can you believe Switzerland in the Alps has less of a problem with heat in the summer for pregnant people than Italy? My goodness. See, look at what we can do. If we had thermostat experts around, we would not have these troubles in America. Europe's figuring it all out, right? They got all this. This is socialized healthcare right there, guys. Right? Triggers early labor. That's what we know, guys. That's what we know. Here's what we know. Thank God we have people working on this. Thank God. Thank God. An effect of deep shrimp poop on climate change. It's not good. It's not good, guys. The effect is not good. Look what we find out. A small, deep example of an old saying that all things are connected. Look at this. Krill defecation at depth reduces carbon flux attenuation in the Weddell Sea euphotic zone, guys. Carbon flux. The flux capacitor is not working in the ocean. We have flux capacitor problems in the ocean because of the krill defecation. Look at this science, guys. I got to read. This is such perfect science. Krill defecation at depth reduces carbon flux attenuation in the Weddell Sea euphotic zone. Screw you, deniers, climate deniers. Now we have proof. We have proof. It's the deep shrimp poop. Thank God. Now, obviously, it's so easy, guys. I mean, how did we not realize this before, right? We had the best data, okay? We had the best data about the Weddell Sea euphotic zone and the flux attenuation, right? And then we had forgot to measure the krill. So we got a control group, right? The krill poop at the bottom. So we went to the bottom of the ocean and we can actually measure at the bottom of the ocean krill poop. We can do that. Yeah. I know it took a long time to find the Titanic, but it's a lot easier to find krill poop 2 miles below the ocean floor in the North Atlantic. Okay. It's just so easy. You just go out with your boat into the North Atlantic and then you go to the bottom miles and miles and miles below the ocean surface. And then you look around and there's krill poop and then you measure it. And then you obviously know that there's a whole bunch of carbon flux attenuation in the Weddell Sea euphotic zone. Obviously, guys. Duh. Now we know. Now we know. Okay. So we're going to solve this problem one way or the other. We're not going to die because of global warming because we've got the goods. We've got the smoking gun on what is going on under the ocean. Scientists know. We know more about the ocean floor than we know about the thermostats in our own homes on the second floor. Science is solving all the problems right now, guys. Okay. I don't want to hear anyone out there trashing it. A strong El Nino may be imminent. Climate change will make its effects worse, guys. Worse. El Nino. It's coming. Oh, this is no good, guys. Pushed by climate change, Canada's northern Great Lakes show signs of a biological reset. I knew this was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. Our lakes are getting a biological reset, guys. You know when you used to play your Nintendo and you got all upset, you lost, you hit reset. Screw this shit, right? Reset. That's what God is doing to our lakes. He's just resetting them. You're up there. You might be enjoying a northern Great Lake today. You might be out there trying to fish. Maybe you'll get a bit of lake bass. No, they're being reset. You're going to pull up one of those krill. You're going to pull up some shrimp. You might even pull up a shark pretty soon because it's getting reset. We're going to have mutants. Okay. It's not, nature is not going along with this shit anymore. It's not, everything's got to change. Okay. The northern Great Lakes are having a biological reset. This is what lakes do. They reset. It's a reset. Factory resets on the lakes, guys. That's what's happening to the lakes. And just when you thought, right, you were worried about the thermostats, you were worried about this and that, luckily, there's something else we should be worrying about. Okay, this is the New York Times. There's something else we should be worrying about, guys. Okay, it's not just what to do with your temperatures. It's not just about the krill at the bottom of the euphotic zone, okay, and the carbon flux capacitor. It's not just about that, okay? This is what we know. Something else, okay? What is it? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There's something else, says Ezra Klein. There's something else out there. You got to worry about it. It's important. This is good. The mystery behind Becerra's leapfrogging over his rivals in the California governor's race. The mystery. It was a scam. It was a scam. It's a mystery, though. He paid for it, right? This is great, too. We get this from Axios. Donald Trump shattered long-held political norms when Republicans elected him twice despite scandals that would have sunk most candidates. Graham Plattner is just like Trump, everyone. He's just like Trump, right? He's testing whether Democrats are willing to play by the same rules. It's the same, right? It's the same. He's just a victim of hoaxes, right? He's just a victim of hoaxes. It's all just hoaxes. So there you go. Those are our stories of the day. Now, I wonder, I got to see something here. If any of my stuff, because I'm at the end of what they didn't share, and I think I can go back to sharing. But let me see if I got the correct order here. I think I did. I think I got it. Okay. All right. Let me take a sip of coffee and then we're going to start the real news now. Well, that's not true. I have one more slightly fake news story, but it's going to help with my other not NPC news narrative. So hold on. Let me stop this screen share. And I think that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to turn this off. Yeah, there we go. That should take up less bandwidth. So let me take my sip of coffee, and then we're going to talk about all the news that's not NPC news. But we're going to start with an NPC news. But it's a special case NPC news story, because it is related to the other things I am talking about. What are people saying in the chat, though? Graham Plattner needs a makeover. I didn't know Trump had a swastika tattooed on his chest. It was not. Don't forget, it was not a swastika. It was a special Nazi symbol for the guards at Auschwitz. Citadel Daniel, good morning, Bitcoiners from Breklev station en route from Prague to Vienna. Very fun, very fun. No, that's Bernie's buddy you're thinking of. Travel well, indeed, Citadel Daniel. Sorry, I'm not there with you, Citadel Daniel. I really hoped it was going to happen, but didn't happen in the end. Next time. I've never been to Czech Republic at all. I've never been to Prague or anything. In the old days, Canadians weirdly needed a visa to enter Czech Republic for many years. I was more or less at the border once and couldn't enter because I didn't know about the visa thing. It was like a surprise to me. And it was one of these tit for tat things. Like, I guess Canada put visas on Czech Republic, and so they did it back to Canada, and I think they're all gone now, but 20 years ago or something, I wasn't able to enter. I had meant to. We were only going to go for like lunch or something. I was in Germany and we were just going to go in for the day, and I had to say, actually, I can't go. I can't go. I'm not allowed. I didn't know that. I hadn't applied. I went through security with old Bernie at Burlington Airport yesterday. Funny watching him get dropped off in a minivan with no entourage at all. Yeah, he's easy to... People are surprised about that in Vermont. He just walks around. You can see him anywhere, like state fairs and stuff like that. He never has any security or anything. And we all love Burlington Airport. It is the greatest airport in America. It's only got one destination, New York City, and then you can get anywhere, though. And getting home from that to that airport is the best. It's like as big as a bus station. So you get out of your airport and you just out of your airplane and you just like cross the street and you're in your car. It's excellent. Okay, so let's start on our stories today. Let's see. Yes. So somehow they're in the sharing system is back to working the way I had expected. So here's Jerome Puel this morning. This is my semi-NPC news, but will be related to our stories of the day. Former Fed Chair Jerome Powell says the Federal Reserve will not survive, guys. It's not going to make it. What must we do to prevent this fate? We don't want the Federal Reserve to die, right? If he dies, he dies. Oh no, not the Federal Reserve. Let them die. Do I have audio on this? I want to play this Star Trek clip if I do.
Do you know how I feel about this? They're animals, Jim. There is an historic opportunity here. Don't believe them. Don't trust them. They are dying. Let them die.
Let them die. There's a good Montrealer. We love it. So there you go. Worst coffee breath in the world. Yeah, I bet. So the Fed Reserve, everyone, might die. So again, I've been talking about this regime change for quite a while now and what it means and why all of this stuff is going on. And you're going to start to see it, right? And part of it, I think, has to do with this Bitcoin fire sale or whatever going on right now, because we are seeing this coordination, rearticulation of the Federal Reserve and a regime change for all intents and purposes, right? And we're starting to understand it a little better. But here is this piece on Real Clear Politics from James Thorne. You know him. We've been talking about him for a long time. So indeed, the Federal Reserve is basically dead as it is. It's being completely reforged, recreated, rebuilt, along the lines of what I've been talking about for the past 2 years. This is the subordination of the Federal Reserve to the Treasury, to the political engine that's there. So here, Scott Bessent may well be the most consequential Secretary of the Treasury since Alexander Hamilton. And this article is called Bessent and the Hamilton Standard. Not simply because of the policies he advances, but because of the conditions he confronts and the clarity with which he is executing President Trump's broader economic vision. Like Hamilton before him, Bessent has stepped into an economy weakened by a long period of policies, however well-intentioned, failed to serve the enduring interests of the American domestic economy. Before entering public life, Bessent operated at the highest levels of global finance as a key figure alongside Stanley Druckenmiller. He helped execute one of the defining macro trades of the modern era, the successful challenge to the Bank of England's currency peg in 1992. The lesson was enduring: systems that ignore economic reality do not last. Market forces alignment. It is precisely that market-grounded realism that now underpins the implementation of the administration's economic strategy. But Bessent is not simply a market practitioner. His time teaching the history of economic thought at Yale reveals the deeper foundation of his approach. He sees the economy not as a series of quarterly data points, but as a system shaped over time by energy, production, capital formation, and national power. That synthesis of theory, history, and practice places him firmly in the Hamiltonian tradition and makes him a natural architect for translating President Trump's economic doctrine into operational policy. After the Revolutionary War, the United States was financially strained under the extreme levels of debt, industrially underdeveloped, and newly severed from its economic relationship with the British Empire. Hamilton's achievement was to turn that fragility into a foundation for strength. He tied fiscal credibility. This is what is important here. This is what we've been talking about for a long time. Fiscal credibility to growth, fostered domestic industry, and deployed tariffs with precision. High enough to generate revenue and support development, but not so high as to suffocate competition. He was not managing decline, he was reversing it. Bessent faces a modern analog, an American economy navigating the aftermath of its own rupture, not from a formal empire, but from the post-World War II Pax Americana and the rules-based system it sustained. The task, again, is not to preserve a fading order, but to build a new foundation, one that reflects the strategic reset articulated by Trump and now being systematically implemented through Treasury and beyond. The parallel is difficult to ignore. Decades of globalization prioritized efficiency over resilience and consumption over production. The result is an economy that remains large, but is increasingly imbalanced, dependent on external supply chains, tilted towards financial engineering, and less capable of sustaining broad-based growth. Besant's significance lies in recognizing this reality and acting on it, not an abstraction, but an execution of a defined national strategy. Like Hamilton, he is not merely managing the economy he inherited, he is working to re-anchor it, aligning markets with the administration's emphasis on domestic strength, industrial capacity, and economic sovereignty. That begins with debt. The United States now carries historically elevated fiscal obligations layered on top of structural weakness. The answer, as in Hamilton's time, is not austerity alone, but growth, stronger, more durable expansion rooted in production, investment, and rising capacity. Debt is not ignored. It is made sustainable through expansion, a core pillar of the administration's supply-side orientation. This framework was articulated clearly in Besant's speech at the Reagan Library. At its core is a simple recognition: an economy hollowed out by flawed globalization cannot sustain either prosperity or fiscal stability. The answer is not withdrawal, but reordering, a principle that sits at the heart of President Trump's economic agenda. His formulation, de-risk, not decouple, captures that balance. It preserves the benefit of trade while restoring the primacy of national resilience. This is not a rejection of globalization, but a correction, a distinctly Hamiltonian instinct, and now being operationalized across trade, capital flows, and industrial policy. Energy is central to his vision. Cheap, secure energy is not a talking point. It is a precondition for winning the next phase of economic competition. So here he says, so is the shift back toward productive capital. This is the important part here too. For years, policy favored financial engineering over real investment. Besant's emphasis is different, directing capital toward infrastructure, manufacturing, and technological capacity, translating strategic intent into capital allocation. Markets have responded not in spite of this shift, but because of it. So this is all really important stuff, right? Let's see. Here it's a doctrine, not one that reflects both intellectual lineage and political mandate. At its core is a modernized American system, domestic production, strategic protection, and national development layered into this Monroe Doctrine style approach to economic security, treating the Western Hemisphere as a strategic sphere. But what distinguishes this strategy is not its articulation, but its execution, the translation of President Trump's strategic instincts into coordinated economic statecraft. In late 2025, largely under the radar, pressure on Iran's financial system intensified and key elements of its banking sector began to fail. It generated few headlines, but the signal was unmistakable: a targeted disruption of financial plumbing rather than a blunt sanctions regime. This is economic statecraft executed with precision, identifying pressure points, applying force selectively, and achieving strategic effect without spectacle. It reflects Besant's background in markets, where understanding fragility is everything, and his role in implementing a broader geopolitical economic strategy set at the presidential level. So, indeed here, that's why, going back to this idea of what the American system is and what it means, and here's just an idea of what this thing means, right? Henry Clay's American system: protective tariffs, national bank, and build infrastructure. And we'll look at this again. But going back to what we're seeing in the Bitcoin story, of course, yesterday we saw Michael Saylor sell some Bitcoin, and here's the same author of that paper saying, food for thought: MicroStrategy did not sell Bitcoin because it lost faith in the asset. It sold to demonstrate that it can turn its hoard into hard cash to meet dividend obligations when required. In my humble opinion, for rating agencies and credit analysts, realized liquid resources carry more weight than unrealized gains in a volatile asset when they assess coverage and resilience. In that sense, the sale functions less as a change of heart and more as a signal that the company is willing to monetize part of its Bitcoin reserve when its capital structure demands it. So I don't know if he's mind reading here, but it did cause, of course, Jim Cramer to say he may have to reevaluate his pro-Bitcoin stance, which means the inverse Cramer is in, and we'll see what happens with that. But the important thing, I think, and relating to this capital being active and not just passive, this is the kind of change that we're seeing across the board. Yesterday, Google actually opened up its ATM offering, so at the market. So now they can go to these huge issuers and raise a ton of money. Google's going to be raising 80 billion capital raise in equity in order to expand its infrastructure. So the old world, remember what Saylor came in for originally? It was to avoid this stock buyback thing, right? That was kind of the point. He was sick of doing the stock buybacks. The whole system of financial engineering had become stock buybacks. All of that financial engineering led to all of Michael Saylor's realizations, made all of this stuff possible. But now with this infrastructure build, there's sort of competition when it comes to those funds being deployed. And here is Sightbringer explaining, I think, a little bit of it. The real sign is capital intensity has finally reached the Mag 7 mythology. For 15 years, mega cap tech was treated as the cleanest business model ever built. Asset-light platforms, infinite operating leverage, buybacks, pristine balance sheets, high-margin software economics, and monopoly-like cash generation. AI is dragging that model into the physical world. Compute is not magic. It is chips, power, land, cooling, fibers, transformers, data centers, supply chains, depreciation schedules, financing capacity, and utilization risk. The market wanted to believe intelligence could scale like software. The truth is harsher. Frontier intelligence scales like industrial infrastructure with software economics only at the monetization layer. That is why this matters. Alphabet tapping equity, if accepted by the market, means AI CapEx has crossed from large internal investment into capital market build-out. This is the big difference here. And this is sort of the environment that what happened with Saylor yesterday should be interpreted in. This is about that infrastructure. It's about this element that we talked about with the American system here. It's about this. It's about building infrastructure. Now, remember, Bitcoin miners are heavily involved in this, just like the AI companies are. So there's the crossover there. That phase shift. The strongest companies in the world are no longer merely spending retained cash on AI. They're beginning to organize the financing architecture of the AI age. Berkshire's role is the most important psychological component. The $10 billion is not large relative to Alphabet. The signal is legitimacy. Berkshire acts as a credibility bridge between old capital and the new compute empire. It tells conservative money there is no longer just speculative tech expenditure. This is infrastructure accumulation. This is the railroad analogy, not as metaphor fluff as capital structure. Railroads needed land, steel, debt, equity, government alignment, private capital, and belief the future throughput would justify present overbuild. AI infrastructure is entering the same zone. The winners are not simply the companies with the best models. The winners are the companies that finance the physical substrate at the lowest cost, deploy fastest, secure power, fill capacity, and convert compute into recurring revenue before depreciation eats the story. This is the the miners' business model. It's the exact same business model as Bitcoin miners. So the whole world now is turning into an economy that Bitcoiners have already been operating in for over a decade. The whole world is switching. Google is switching over to that. Everyone is switching over to this realization that the Bitcoin miners were already playing in the future of capital markets. Just like Bitcoin miners, just like Michael Saylor, sometimes you have to sell, you have obligations, but it's part of a trend. It's part of a wider restructuring. It's part of a regime change. This also changes how Mag 7 should be analyzed. The old question was, who has the best product, the biggest network, the strongest margins, the largest buyback? The new question is, who can carry the CapEx burden without breaking the equity story? That's exactly the question Michael Saylor has been operating those tensions. So the whole world is actually shifting to the Michael Saylor environment. This is a big change. This is regime change. So that is a very different market. Alphabet doing this gives cover to the others. Microsoft can point to cloud backlog. Amazon can point to AWS and infrastructure DNA. Meta can point to ads, AI agents, and frontier model control, but the market will demand clearer ROI. Apple has less permission because it is not structurally viewed as a compute infrastructure owner. NVIDIA sits in a different place because it sells the picks and shovels, though even there, the financing burden may migrate into customers, leasing structures, sovereign deals, and vendor-backed capacity. We've already seen that with the huge, different one. Deep down, this is bullish for AI infrastructure arc and dangerous for lazy AI equity narratives. Just like in Bitcoin. Bullish because the demand pressure is so intense that companies are willing to reshape capital structure to meet it. Dangerous because the free money illusion around AI equities starts cracking once investors realize this is not a financing war, just a product cycle, not just a product cycle. The cleanest read, same arc, new phase. The AI build out is still real. The infrastructure demand is still massive, but the active mechanism has shifted from narrative acceleration to capital formation. That means the market will stop rewarding AI exposure indiscriminately and start sorting companies by funding durability, power access, capex efficiency, utilization, margin conversion, and balance sheet trust. This is what America is doing. This is what Michael Saylor is doing. It's all about balance sheet trust now. The regime change at the Fed, the capital markets change, and exactly what Michael Saylor is changing and suggesting here. It's about this kind of change. It's about this kind of shift. And the good news for us Bitcoiners is we're way ahead of this. We're way ahead of this. This is what we've been doing. We've been existing in this environment forever. The world is turning towards us. So while price is down today, structurally, the market looks more and more like the field we want to play in. It looks more and more like the world we've created. These are the same tensions. What you're hearing here is basically the way Bitcoin emerged out of shitcoinery. It's the same standard. Just as Bitcoin is a standard to measure all crypto by, we're seeing standards now for this big capital markets build out and this new way, this new regime of capital market orientation and construction. And of course, the product of all this is building real stuff and having a balance sheet that is trustable. The real truth, AI is forcing the world's most powerful companies to become industrial empires again. Software ate the world with code. AI has to rebuild the world with concrete, copper, silicon, energy, and debt. Bitcoiners will recognize all of these trends exactly as we do, because this is the world. It is this national bank that is even partly what Michael Saylor is building. When people talk about nationalizing MicroStrategy, it's because it will be useful in this system as a national bank and to build infrastructure outside of it. So this is what it looks like, and that's why having these internal improvements, frontline energy technologies, including nuclear, have to be built in mass in order to win this struggle. Here's a little tip too, because America, with this national bank, is actually taking so much stake in a lot of these companies. We saw with Intel, No Limit Gains has a bit of an inside take on what's happening next. So here he says the Trump administration has taken a direct equity stake in another U.S. company. The pattern of what happens next is now too consistent to ignore. If you're a serious investor, you need to follow this in the assembly guide. This is the person who came up with this. We spend hours digging for asymmetric setups, so you don't have to. What he has here is LAC Lithium Americas. Department of Energy took a 5% equity stake plus another 5% in the Thacker Pass joint venture. It is the largest confirmed lithium in North America. They got a big loan on it. So we'll see. Dell did the same, right? Dell is doing great now. So same pattern with INTC. The same administration is doing it with LAC. So that is, again, not that I know any of this stuff, but here it is, LAC Lithium Americas. No Limit suggesting this will be one of the big beneficiaries of what's coming. And so have a look. I don't know. But importantly, right, just seeing the physical infrastructure of stuff getting built and having to build things. And we heard Sightbringer earlier talking about NVIDIA, a big part of this. That's why even NVIDIA is getting, deeper into the hardware world. Here we see they relaunched a laptop yesterday. This is Jensen Huang doing his best Steve Jobs impersonation, coming up with the new AI first computer. It is the RTX Spark, is their first PC chip ever. This is what we know about it. It'll live on the machine, no cloud. Let's see if I've still got audio. Let me know.
Of course, I got to show you the most beautiful part, which is video games. It's also the closest to our heart. This is Forza. This is 007, by the way. The new 007 game, I'm looking forward to playing it. I look a little bit like him. Ladies and gentlemen, NVIDIA's RTX Spark laptops. Now,
so big news yesterday from them. I don't understand enough about hardware to know why this is such a big deal, but everyone talking about it says this is huge. But it shows again that things are, physical. And now the interesting thing, they have this product just like Michael Saylor is looking for, the sale of the Bitcoin to increase the credibility of his collateral, because the collateral is a big part of this. It's the same. That's what we've got over at NVIDIA. Their collateral is now being treated as a sovereign nation. So here, Sightbringer again, absolutely incredible. Investors now perceive NVIDIA to be as credit worthy as the US government. This is what Michael Saylor is aiming for, to have this kind of credibility and credit worthiness as the US government in order to get more fiat, in order to buy more Bitcoin, in order to have more credit worthiness, in order to keep the cycle going. And this is what these national banks, this is why people talk about Michael Saylor and Strategy being part of a national bank, being nationalized, being part of this collateral, because America is trying to rebuild its own credit worthiness from the Treasury, not using the liabilities of the Federal Reserve, but its own assets. So this is why the shift, this regime change shift of the Federal Reserve to the Treasury is so important to look at, and why it's important to consider. So here we're seeing it's the same story, right? That capital is beginning to organize around functional sovereignty. And I think that's what Michael Saylor just showed with the Bitcoin sale. It's a type of functional sovereignty. Like, I'm not so religious about this. I have dexterity, sovereign. I'm above these lines, right? That means the market will increasingly reward entities that control the hard bottlenecks of the system: compute, chips, energy, cloud, defense software, identity, payments, scarce collateral. That is what we are seeing with MicroStrategy. And of course, physical infrastructure probably has to get into a bit more physical infrastructure. Michael Saylor should really buy a nuclear reactor, I think. The old valuation question, how fast can the company grow? The new valuation becomes, does the entity control a layer of the future cannot root around? That is why NVIDIA matters. It is not just a beneficiary of AI demand. It is a balance sheet expression of the world's dependency on compute. If the market treats that credit as cleaner than the sovereign, even temporarily, the cost of capital advantage compounds. That is exactly what Michael Saylor is after. That is exactly what is going on here. And funny enough, do you know that I was able to reach Jensen Huang easily in like 2017, 2018, because NVIDIA wasn't quite at the level that it got to. And he had a lot of attention for Bitcoiners. And, you know, I created a whole outreach list on how to get him. We were going to go all the way to Taiwan just to do an event there, just because he wouldn't, at the time, there was some travel thing. And I almost, had I been able to produce an event in Taiwan, he would have been the keynote and we would have had a good time. But there you go. Cheaper capital gives stronger infrastructure players more ability to build, secure supply, prepay capacity, attract partners, and widen the moat that becomes reflexive. AI infrastructure leaders set sovereign style capital access. So does Saylor. And that's why this is so important. That's why I keep telling you that the AI game and Bitcoin are so related. That does not make every AI equity safe, just like it doesn't make any other crypto safe. Bitcoin doesn't have any advantages for crypto. NVIDIA has no advantages for other AI shitcoins. It makes the market more selective. Credit strength and equity valuation split apart. NVIDIA can be a fortress credit and still have stock drawdown risk. Google can raise capital for AI and still face dilution risk. Microsoft can have enormous cloud demand and still face margin pressure. The winning framework is no longer buy anything with AI exposure. It is own the layers where capital intensity becomes a moat rather than a burden. And that is what we see with Michael Saylor. That's why we're seeing all of this, building and what, physical building, why the American system is so important. Again, Tariff Man, again, explaining you Henry Clay's American system here. That's why we're already seeing this play out in America and physically. Here is a Tariff Man again talking about nuclear reactors and what's going on. And here it is. All of these people, all of these are possible if we fix permitting. Here's a nuclear reactor. Here's also a bunch of water canals and freshwater infrastructure that could be built. And you see these ones coming out of Quebec and the St. Lawrence River. And here's a way to get water into the Great Plains. I've been saying for a long time that the number one sign of confirmation that we're in the golden age is through this kind of terraformation, this kind of water movement across the continent to make our deserts green, I really think we're going to get that. I think that that is what is going to happen here. I don't think it's going to go this way. I think you're going to put a bunch of nuclear reactors here on the Pacific coast and pump above the Sierra Madres and flood on the other side of the Rocky Mountains all of these areas here that are desertified, and we're going to be able to create some pretty amazing infrastructure and places to live as a result. And as you're seeing all of this build out and what's about to happen with the golden age, and when you're seeing that all the companies building this infrastructure are going to have more credible debt and balance sheets than sovereigns and countries, it's the reason why we're seeing that there's going to be, Bitcoin citadels, private cities. We're not going to be organizing around just the nation state any longer. We're going to be having these breakaway freedom cities. We're going to have this new architecture for all of these things. That's why sovereigns themselves are becoming weakened. America will survive this, but countries like Canada cannot survive when all of this infrastructure is getting built by private entities and not the government, because the government is now in competition with these private entities because their capacity to build infrastructure is going to outpace the sovereign capacity to build infrastructure, which is why we're re-articulating, reorienting how we organize as humans. Nation states are not really going to be the organizing principle going forward. That's why Trump is out here making 51st state jokes again about Canada today. He's making 51st state jokes about Canada today because, as we see here, Canada is in the news again for its poverty, for its failure. And here Canada dips, reject all you piece of shit. Canada dips into technical recession for the first time since 2020. Exactly why you've got Trump today saying 51st state. The country does not have credible finances. It will fail. Canada's in its last months now. And it would be, again, why Trump is targeting the economic incapacity of these places is because Trump is also conducting a proxy war on the nation states that are preventing this shift from the Fed Reserve regime change that we're seeing, from this increase in the American system, which is allowing builders to really take the reins and not the old sludge people that run the fiat industrial complex. And now today, moving from this, Trump's proxy war, his shadow war, what's going on with all of that, we come to what's going on again in Iran. So here in Iran, it turns out that Trump got into a fight yesterday with Netanyahu per Axios, right? So this is Axios, who isn't always credible, but we'll find out maybe they are, because in this, not in general, not credible, but in this case, probably intentionally leaked. So this is what we know. Trump had a conversation with Netanyahu today. So I'm going to relate all of this Israel stuff and the Iran stuff to the regime change, and also a new connection that I've discovered, and we'll be able to tie in the Israel question, the Iran question, the City of London question, and the US Senate question. They're all related, and I didn't see until now, but now I think I see a little bit more about what's going on, thanks to Promethean Action. We'll get to the video in 1 second. But here's what we know. Trump says, "You're fucking crazy. You'd be in prison if it weren't for me. I'm saving your ass," is apparently what he says. Everybody hates you now. He says everybody hates Israel because of this. So Trump telling Netanyahu, "You're fucking crazy." So here's what we know about Axios. For those saying it's Axios, they are lying. It is reported by Barak Ravid, who to this day remains the only reporter to whom Trump has trashed Netanyahu. Their relationship appears to be that Trump gives him exclusive scoops in exchange for accurate reporting. Audio from a 2021 phone video. Never forget, Netanyahu screwed over Trump when it came to recognizing the 2020 election. I've told you many times that there's no way Trump is a huge Netanyahu fan after 2021 and January 6th and all that stuff. So I doubt any of the audio is going to work here correctly, so I will start it over just so you can hear a little bit of what Trump had to say.
Bibi Netanyahu, before the ink was even dry, to do a message, and not only a message, to do a tape to Joe Biden talking about their great friendship.
I told you.
They didn't have a friendship, because if they did, they wouldn't have done the Iran deal. And guess what? Now they're going to do it again. And if they do it again, Israel is in very grave danger. I was disappointed in Bibi, just on a personal basis. When we have an election that was a rigged election, like a third world country election. I think it's a terrible personal trait. I haven't spoken to him since. I didn't talk to him. Fuck him.
Fuck
Go
him.
ahead. What else?
So what's going on here is I told you that Israel's purposes with Iran are not the same as America's. We are not in any way doing Israel's bidding. This has worked out way worse for Israel than anyone in the world. And what I've been saying for a long time with the Abraham Accords is that Israel is being handed over to Saudi Arabia and everything we know from the Abraham Accords. So this is why Netanyahu is lashing out now. This is why he's trying to survive. Just as Trump says, you'd be fucked without him. You'd be in jail. Now, I don't believe in the credibility of the Israeli courts. So whether or not Netanyahu did whatever they're accusing him of, I'm sure you can find, I mean, he's a criminal. There's no doubt Bibi Netanyahu. I've told you many times, the Tucker Carlson Adelson interviews, that's all real, right? As we're going to talk about Tucker in a few minutes. But definitely real stuff, right? So seeing Trump here move against Netanyahu has been long predicted, right? And that's why lots of people are saying here, just like James E. Thorne, this is for the Golden Age mascot. We have it. Trust in Trump. Can you believe it? Q, what? Trust the plan. What? Trust the plan. The Department of War is saying, no way. Can't do that, right? No way. So we're seeing more and more what's going on indeed here, saving Israel for last. The fracture between Trump and Netanyahu is becoming impossible to ignore. For decades, Washington touted publicly as a near unified strategic front, yet the visible pressure over Lebanon, Iran, ceasefire timing, and regional escalation now exposes a growing divergence in objectives. Trump appears focused on controlling the larger system of oil flows. So go back to the financial system. Go back to everything we were just saying about the regime change at the Fed and why this story in the Middle East is related to it. And this is the real story. This is why you have to look at these things: oil flows, shipping lanes, economic leverage, negotiation timing. Well, Netanyahu appears fixed on maximizing military position before a wider regional settlement structure locks into place. The Middle East was never just about religion or territory. It sits on the connective tissue of global power itself: energy corridors, maritime choke points, intelligence operations, sanctions enforcement, proxy warfare, arms industries, debt systems, commodity markets, and regime influence all converge through this region. Thus, the reason that the State of Israel was created in the first place, which is what I've been saying for a long time, the State of Israel was created for the purposes of division and fighting. Netanyahu is simply carrying out the original mission. He's not necessarily a friend of America's, although they have been a good ally in general. Israel is bound by the same limitations and the same conflict that America has. Only they don't have MAGA. They don't have anyone like Trump. They've got Netanyahu completely compromised. He's been around for 30 years. What do you think's going on over there? It ain't good. It ain't good, right? Instability inside this architecture sends shockwaves through inflation, currencies, trade flows, shipping, insurance, military readiness, and sovereign finance worldwide. Is because of that, prolonged conflict generates leverage and profit opportunities far beyond the battle itself, a control axis, exactly why Israel was created. Don't care about that. Israel functions as a central strategic node inside this larger geopolitical architecture, which is why every escalation immediately pulls in global financial, military, and intelligence interests far outside the region itself. Saving Israel for last becomes less a slogan and more a sequencing theory. The idea that larger systems tied to sanctions, NGOs, proxy networks, border destabilization, intelligence coordination, economic warfare, and global trade restructuring are being exposed layer by layer before the most politically sensitive alliances are openly challenged in full view. Very normal thing to happen, very predictable, and that is why this is going to continue to go down this way. So watching all of this and then, thinking about what this means going forward for American domestic politics, here's an interesting connection that I hadn't understood before. But I think now we're going to start to see why the Uniparty, why the fake rhino Republicans, why the Senate and the UK all sound a little bit similar on this. And this was a missing piece, I'd say, in my part. I didn't understand this for a long time. But I think we're getting there now. And here we see from Barbara Boyd how Larry Ellison funds the war on Trump. So we've been talking about Larry Ellison. He's the Oracle founder. He's the guy who's building the new CBS News. He's the guy who hired Barry Weiss. And so here's what Barbara Boyd says about him, and it's not good. It's not good. Let me see where. I don't want to listen to the whole thing. Let's skip to what do we want? Well, we'll go this one and then back because I want to talk first about the Empire.
Tony Blair.
Let me know if the audio is coming through, guys. Actually, I'll just start it over so I don't have to wait. So I'm going to go out of her order. I'll do this one, and then I'll go back to the Senate war.
Was a favorite of George W. Bush, and he was named first friend by Barack Obama in 2009, and that relationship has continued ever since. In 2016, Blair incorporated the Tony Blair Institute. He said its mission was to counter, quote, the rise of populism, namely the Brexit uprising in Britain and the Trump uprising here. My study of the Institute shows his plan had 3 tracks: lock down the Senate home through mass surveillance and censorship, ingratiate himself with Donald Trump and his policy circles, and lock America into a forever war with Iran, just as he did with George Bush in Iraq. Blair's Institute was underwritten by $130 million from Larry Ellison. That's that name again, with smaller additional funding from Bill Gates. The Tony Blair Institute spent 9 years building the legal and analytic case for regime change in Iran. Their Iran lead, Khosrow Arabi, constructed the framework. Blair personally launched the flagship paper at the Council on Foreign Relations in February 2020. In September 2023, Arabi took the whole package to United Against Nuclear Iran, chaired since August 2024 by none other than Jeb Bush and run by George W. Bush's former UN ambassador, Mark Wallace. In January 2025, UANI delivered its 100-day plan to the incoming Trump administration. B-2 bombers, bunker busters, a democratization fund from frozen Iranian assets. But it didn't go according to their plan because of Donald Trump being Donald Trump and making up his mind without them, or without Netanyahu for that matter. Donald Trump has said one thing consistently since 1984. You don't give nuclear weapons to people who will use them. His uncle, MIT physicist John Trump, warned him early about the apocalyptic stakes. The White House has documented his consistent position across decades. So when he acted against Iran, he struck the nuclear infrastructure and stopped. No ground troops, no regime change, just give up your nuclear program and stop running proxy wars across the Middle East. Not the Blair-Jeb Bush plan. And now Blair has to pivot from the resulting disaster for his masters in the City of London. You see, Iran's IRGC had lodged its funds with Blair's masters in that city. The city otherwise depends on Gulf state petrodollars for its very survival. The IRGC, which the Blair Institute spent almost a decade profiling, attacked the Gulf states, while the UK sat on its hands and refused to intervene. That sent the Gulf states fleeing from London to none other than Donald Trump.
Which is why I've been saying that America's most important allies, why Israel is being handed to Saudi Arabia and the Gulf Coast, why it's going to be completely reorganized over there, why I've been going over to the Middle East regularly for the past couple of years, talking with all of these people, because those are the most important allies right now. Those are the most important allies, and not some Western front involving Saudi Arabia and the Gulf Coast. No, America, of course, Russia and China for their own reasons, but not aligned to create the new American system. They have their own ideas and their own systems that they're going to compete with the American system over. So it's a type of, exactly as Xi said, a type of partnership, rivalry, but not something that is going to lead to a hot war. It's basically people can choose, and we'll see how it goes. But again, here, seeing this system, seeing these allies form, it's important because that's what brings the conversation back to America, because it looks like the stuff abroad is becoming more and more obvious. But domestically, this is the Larry Ellison connection, who's funding all of this crazy shit, and why we need to know about this, because here we see, we'll go and see what
right now. Let's start with a number.
This is Ellison in the
$35
Senate.
million. That is what Larry Ellison, founder of Oracle, one of the largest technology companies on earth, poured into making Tim Scott the president of the United States in 2024. Tim Scott called Larry Ellison his mentor. He said so publicly at his campaign launch. Tim Scott lost to Donald Trump. Who else did Ellison heavily fund? $1 million to Lindsey Graham this March alone. Graham chairs the Budget Committee, sits on Appropriations and Judiciary. Graham's insatiable warmongering is just one aspect of this relationship. And Oracle gave $15,000 directly to the National Republican Senatorial Committee, plus $50,000 more from Ellison personally. The NRSC is the Senate's campaign machinery. Ellison protege Tim Scott chairs it and runs it. That's who just blew an estimated $90 million trying to defeat Ken Paxton and protect the rhino John Cornyn in Texas. Which gets us to John Thune. When Thune won a seat in 2005, he became Mitch McConnell's protege, climbing every rung of McConnell's ladder for 15 years until January 2025, when he took McConnell's seat as Senate Majority Leader. He beat the other McConnell protege, Senator John Cornyn from Texas. McConnell,
Sorry, are you explaining to me that Kentucky elected officials are running the country? Is it Kentucky? We need the Kentucky people. We need all the Kentucky people. So here's what we know. This is about what happened and what's going on over there with Larry Ellison. So this is why this is not an accident or whatever. The kind of cooperation Trump is getting with his Senate. He's not getting any appointments. He's not getting any cooperation. No SAVE Act. Nothing. Here we find out that Thune now is saying the president has to drop his anti-weaponization fund. So this is the money that was put for January 6th people, anyone who was weaponized, who had to suffer from the weaponization of the U.S. government during the 4 years of the Biden administration. This money was supposed to go for them. And we've been talking about what a great idea this was for a while. Mike Benz is all for this. This is a typical liberal trick of funding your own lawfare mechanisms and all of that stuff. Here he says this is after the Republicans went home on recess without voting on anything because they threw a fit over the fund. So again, here Thune doing that. Let's not forget, of course, Mike Pence wants the same thing. That's not a good sign, right? And the BBC here giving Pence coverage. Who is talking about what Mike Pence says in American politics in America? The answer is none. Normally, you shouldn't care. Normally, if Mike Pence opens his mouth, everyone reminds him he didn't even get, what did he get? 1% of the vote for running for president. He is the Benedict Arnold of our time. Nobody, whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. Nobody likes him. He's got exactly zero clout in the Republican Party, zero clout in America in any realm that matters. And here you get the BBC calling his anti-weaponization fund is deeply offensive. Oh, sorry, you're offended, Mike Pence. Oh, I wouldn't want to offend you. Terrible, terrible. So seeing these stories, seeing the uniparty emerge, and Larry Ellison as the connection, and even the connection to all these data center things, right? This is important stuff. And you don't want this surveillance state. We want AI to be decentralized. Nothing of the sort is going to happen, it looks like, if Larry Ellison and Oracle continue to push it. So again, though, let's go back to Larry Ellison for a second, just to try to get our bearings about us as we go through this shift in American politics, because it's not so simple. right? It's not so simple. So here we see they're definitely taking aim at the, let me just erase some of these because I'm not getting enough. So there are some, let's should be sellies, yeah. So let's go back to what is actually happening with what Larry Ellison has bought in America, because it's not. Let's try and figure it out. I don't know what the answer is. So here's what I do know, right? He's bought 60 Minutes, and things are changing over there, right? Things are definitely changing over at 60 Minutes. So you like to see that. Here's Scott Pelley from 60 Minutes saying she's murdering that she's murdering 60 Minutes. Let's remember Barry Weiss, appointed by Ellison, right? So Ellison bought CBS, appointed Barry Weiss, and we're mostly for what she's been doing, right? It's been good stuff so far. We're seeing her fire people. We're seeing her change over at 60 Minutes. Scott Pelley talking about 60 Minutes getting murdered is the exact same as Jerome Powell talking about killing the Federal Reserve. Like, let's go. Okay. Like, okay, whatever. We don't mind, right? Don't threaten us with a good time. So now he's saying it's murdered. Yesterday, he said that the new guy who's in charge of it has scant qualifications for the job and pressed him into account for last week's firings. So talking about what's going on over in this thing. And right, I really don't understand where the 60 Minutes staff has any leverage here. Do they think they are so beloved that they can't be replaced? Because that is not the sense I have. Indeed, most people think of it as a joke at this point. Here's just some examples of Scott Pelley. Here is him last year, right, talking about fear that has spread across the country. He then praises himself for pressing in on the face of such immense difficulty, right? He's such a hero. Why has he always got this face? Huh? Why can't he just talk? Like, why is it always like he's so serious, too serious to fool? You can't fool me. Look at how serious I am. You can't get one over on me. I'm not buying your Bitcoin. I'm serious. I'm a serious guy. I don't want to talk about internet money. I'm serious, right? So this whole thing is like, the way he keeps his face, I guess. I don't know. But it's been propaganda forever, as we all know. Here's a famous one of Scott Pelley talking about the Russia with McCabe. All scams. He's never done his job, not once. Total trash person. Here he is again. Here's Scott Pelley before 60 Minutes interview with Biden in late 2023, letting everyone know that Biden's stutter can return when he's been working too hard. I can't believe that 60 Minutes somehow missed Biden's decline. How is that possible? I want to hear this one, actually. I got to hear him. This is who's crying about changes in media.
Late Thursday, we met President Biden at the White House. It had been a rough week, and we could see it on him. Mr. Biden will be 81 next month, and he has said that when he's tired, his lifelong stutter can creep back in.
Oh.
But he wedged us into his schedule. Does the dysfunction that we've seen in Congress increase the danger in the world?
Yes. Look, this is not your father's Republican Party. 30% of it is made up of these MAGA Republicans who are maybe, democracy is something they don't look at it the same way you and I look at democracy.
So that was Scott Pelley. And of course, now, these are the good things they're doing, right? The chances that CBS News would be covering these stories without Barry Weiss are almost zero. There are legitimate and important stories that were being ignored by much of the press. So here yesterday, we're talking about some of the Nick Shirley stuff. CBS is the only outlet that's picked up on the Nick Shirley stuff, so good for them, right? So they're talking about all the theft. It's a lot. Kobe Bryant sneakers, wild amount of stuff. So that's good, right? That's good. But the things they don't cover, right? The things they don't cover are also important. And the things they aren't covering, and I think this is a a big part of it, right? Is they're not really covering any of the race stuff. So you don't want to see that. So here, Tucker Carlson yesterday does cover it, right? Too many white men were supporting their families by driving trucks. So, of course, leaders had to end that by importing unqualified foreigners. A lot of the people died in the process. Cernovich saying out here, who else is having these conversations and discussing these issues? None of Tucker's critics are. The best way to defeat Tucker is to stop with the usual slop. Conservative media, whatever that means today, is all unlistenable to these days. It's tedious and one-dimensional. Now, I will say that the stuff they're doing on the Nick Shirley stuff, the corruption stuff, that's all been great. Like watching all of this stuff go down in, with people like Nick Sortor as well. Here he is yesterday with the citizen journalist covering the New Jersey stuff, dealing with hospital violence, all this stuff. These are real journalists right now doing real work, not part of a corporate structure. So I doubt we're going to get a tremendous amount of help from CBS, other than they're following the Nick Shirley stuff, but they're not covering the important stories. They're not covering this kind of stuff like you see Tucker Carlson covering here. Now, I've been warning you since the beginning. I don't know what game Tucker Carlson's playing. The minute he went on about Bitcoin, I said something's up, but I've never said it straight. We don't really understand what it is, and I think I've been consistent about that since December. I don't know what game Tucker Carlson is playing. I don't know. But it is important. And even here, right, the other end of it, the circle jerk of podcasts have made them unlistenable. I can't remember anything of note other than Tucker and some Matt Walsh segments. People sitting around bitching about Tucker or Glenn Greenwald or saying the Israel lobby is too mean. Who under 30 listens to that shit? It's true. It's true. That's why I prefer to orient everything through Bitcoin, not through the old prism, not through the old politics, because it's not really going to get you anywhere. I think, Promethean Action is a pretty good example of podcasts I do listen to for the reasons that you understand, and they see the world the same as me, because and this is what I like about Cernovich, and this is what I like about some people approaching this stuff. We can't really talk about this stuff appropriately, correctly, if we're not treating the spiritual nature of what's going on. And so I think that this story in the UK, you haven't heard me talk about it until now, but again, go back to what I just said about Tucker covering race, the anti-white stuff. We hear Elon talking about it all the time. But this picture here shows us what a spiritual war we really are in. And I think that's why it's important to have anchors that aren't really in news corporations or even in the podcast world. It's got to come out from somewhere else. And that's why the Bitcoin community, the P2P information network, is great, because something has descended on our world that is bad. And, I'm not going to show you the video of it. Lots of people seeing the Henry Novak. Haven't mentioned it until today because it's just too ugly to talk about. But this picture, is just beyond. And here you see, here's a picture taken from the camera when his hand, pale, loss of blood. And just look at these demonic claws here, right? Very aesthetic messaging, having a beam of light illuminate Novak's paled hand while demonic hands, claws restrain him. Don't they look like demonic claws? Doesn't this look like some kind of a painting, like some kind of a Gothic Renaissance painting or something? I mean, it's just absolutely the most evil thing that you can imagine. The video, watch it if you're in the mood for something disgusting and terrible. But it's a real thing that happened, and unbelievable, right? And so we're in this spiritual battle. We're in something that is, definitely race is a part of this spiritual battle. Don't know why. Populism, like we said from the beginning, from the Promethean Action video, underlining what's going on with Tony Blair, underlining why this antagonism towards Trump has been there from the beginning, because he doesn't fit into the uniparty mold. He doesn't fit into any of this stuff. He's been talking about anti-white racism for a long time, longer than most. Was one of the first people brave enough to talk about it. And so you're seeing this confluence of events that shows we're in this type of spiritual war. And that's why it's not even about economics anymore. That's why economics are important. But you've got to understand there's something else motivating these factors, motivating these people. And, here's a great example, right? Here's something that Bitcoiners, and why the economic frame that Bitcoiners have, why we've been able to perceive this spiritual war before any, because the economists told on themselves first about all of this stuff. And when they told on themselves by the ad hominems, by making fun of Bitcoiners, by criticizing Bitcoiners themselves, not necessarily Bitcoin. And here you see Paul Krugman with one of these great examples. Here he is, right? Here's Paul Krugman yesterday. And now Bitcoiners have understood the scam that is Paul Krugman for a long time. Here he is saying that you all need to be re-educated, that you need to go to re-education camps. That's actually something that Paul Krugman said yesterday. He said you need to go to re-education camps. We really do need a thorough purging in the United States, he says. We need a demagnification, similar to Nazification, right? The left is not hiding the ball. The plan is total ideological purge, a totalitarian crackdown that will make the Biden years look like a gentle fairy tale. Politics has become existential. Snap out of your Mr. Smith goes to Washington delusion. Immediately pay the price, all right? Or immediately pay the price. We're in a type of spiritual war, and that's what is important here. Seeing this call for a denazification of people, right? It's not race, but it's not far. This is what's going on here. This is why this is a lot deeper. It's all over Canada. It's the same story in Canada. It's the same story across the board. So I had a few other stories here. I'm going to have to skip them because we're getting a little bit low on time. Let me cancel all the Scott Pelley stuff. We don't care about Scott Pelley. So that's why, right? Seeing I had a bunch of Spencer Pratt videos. Well, we're going to skip a bit of this stuff here. No, the stupid things didn't upload. Anyway, I knew the screen share didn't update in time. I don't have a lot of the end of the order. That's fine. We're out of time anyway. I will say, though, this spiritual war has some uplifting components, and here's some golden age inspiration that we all need. Here's Obama's arch, right? And there's the Trump one. So this is a real picture of Obama's presidential library. And this is how you can see a little more articulately the spiritual war we're in, and why building is important, why all this stuff is important. There you go. So I've got a Chicagoan who has just joined the chat. He can tell us a little bit about how he can't wait to get to Obama's beautiful arch. Let's see what a Chicago original resident thinks about that arch.
Right. Give me the arch. I'm here for it, Nolan. How are you this morning? How are
I'm good, but did you see what we could have built in Chicago instead of
instead of the arch?
Instead of the arch, have you seen it?
What? I love a new Bear Stadium that's in Chicago. That'd be a good start.
Yeah, unbelievable what they did to Soldier Field.
It's an iconic venue. I don't understand it at all. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I don't know why the old stadium didn't work. Like, it wasn't that bad.
They rebuilt it in the early 2000s inside of the old thing, and they didn't plan to make it big enough to the point that they're talking about rebuilding it again 20 years later. It's crazy. The Illinois government is so screwed up. The mayor is the worst.
Well, so that's what I'm getting at. George Lucas offered Chicago his George Lucas Museum. He was going to build the whole thing. Did you see it?
Yes. I've heard about it. I didn't know he offered it to Chicago.
Yeah. They said no. So it's going to be open up this soon in LA. It's like the most beautiful building you've ever seen in your life. It's got all the costumes, all the hard assets.
That's sweet.
It's got his own collection of shoes. He's a big Nike collector. It's got.
Is he able to do this? Didn't he sell it to Disney?
Yeah, but he kept his own. Like, there's actual props. There's own like personal collection.
Oh, so it's like his personal collection.
Yeah. It's like a presidential library, but for George Lucas. And so he's got his. I guess he retained rights to do it when he sold it.
Okay, there we
Yeah,
go.
so it's like the actual Yoda puppet. It's the actual, the things that they don't need at Disney, but that he can.
Oh, that's cool.
He's a big Norman Rockwell painting
Oh.
collector, so it's his Norman Rockwells as well, as originals that are there, and
Oh, that's cool.
just a gorgeous building. It's going to be the best museum in LA. If Spencer Pratt wins today, I'm heading to LA. I was going to go vote. I'm surprised. You should just go vote. You can just go down to LA and vote, by the way.
Yeah, I don't think you even need identification. I think you just write
Nothing.
your
No,
name
no, that's what
down
I'm saying. I've
and
been
just there you
encouraging
go.
everyone to go vote for Spencer Pratt.
Yeah, it should be interesting. You know what else is interesting? I don't know if you're aware. You and I have a very fun guest this morning.
Who's coming on?
Safadine is joining
Oh,
us.
no
today.
way!
Yeah,
That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we have a
That's
really
gonna be a lot of
fun
fun.
game plan for the three of us a little later that we developed for this one called Safe or Sorry. So I'll be excited to break that down with you guys. It should make for a fun app. So we're excited to have you guys.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. Awesome, man. Well,
Yeah.
see you
All right.
soon.
I'll
Can't wait.
meet up. See you soon.
Peace,
Yep.
man. Peace. All right, you heard that. Hank's letting us know we got Safadine on the network right after this. I'm going to be joining Safe and Hank if you want some fun. I'm sure we're going to be talking about the Middle East. So come around, check it out. We're going to have a good time. I'm about to end the broadcast, folks, so that we can make room for Safe. Let's see what folks are saying in the comment. Yeah, no, I ran out of time. We have a pretty interesting comment here by Young Tommy. I want to share it. What do we got? Where are we? Israel's a great ally, right? A base refuge for pedos in America. Pulte was just named the director of national intelligence. Are you kidding me? Bill Pulte, director of national intelligence. That just happened. Interesting. I'm starting to think of the Nolan created in order to stand and for the he always mocks. No, I did not. Don't have a place of refuge. Israel is the greatest ally. Trust me, bro. Tucker is the Overton window management. Nothing more, nothing less. That's an interesting theory. Nolan needs to add an extra hour to the show to cover all this stuff. There you go. Go Hammond Bears. Thanks. Great show, acting director. Okay, everyone. I'm going to play the it doesn't end well. I don't think it does. I don't think it does either. So there you go. Sorry I didn't get to all this, Kyle, on the look up open timestamps and spaces protocol. Does anyone have a thought on BIP 110? I've waited on it a few times. Basically, my general, I'm not someone who likes to lead on Bitcoin scaling ideas just because I was around during the block size wars. I'm not politically motivated when it comes to Bitcoin stuff, unless something looks imminent. This still looks like it's a bunch of conversation, and I'm generally against hard forks. I like Bitcoin the way it is, and I have to be talked into hard forks. So that's how I think of things. All right, folks, I'm about to play the logo followed by the thanks for watching screen. I just want to tell you thanks for watching, and I will see you again tomorrow. Peace out. Come on and stick around and see what Safe and I have to say about probably the Middle East, other stuff too. Peace out, everyone.